Is it working?
We're going, Graham. We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
It
Ground
came through
control
on my phone
to
at
Major
the same
Graham.
time. Oh, this is what happens when you haven't done these in weeks, that you suddenly lose the practice of it. So, hey, we're not even sure when this is coming out. It might come out today or it might come out on Sunday. I'm hoping we can release the episode early, since it's kind of time specific a little bit more than normal. Anyway, so this will probably then come out then on Boxing Day, as we would say in England, Matt.
Indeed, probably, yes. It's not a thing that happens in America, really, is it?
No. To be honest, I don't know if I've told you this story or not, but my first Christmas, I went to Dallas because I got friends in Dallas.
You did?
And actually on Christmas Day, like, we had the Christmas meal and everything. But then they were like, you want to go bowling? I was like, on Christmas Day? I was like, I love bowling. But they're like, yeah. I was like, it's going to be open? They're like, yeah, it's going to be open. They have NBA games on Saturday, on Christmas Day as well.
They've got NFL games as well, Graham, yeah.
It's kind of strange. Like, in England, everything kind of shuts down for Christmas Day, but not
and a lot for Boxing Day, to be fair, as well. A lot of stuff does.
Well, perhaps in England, but not. Well, obviously in England, America, it makes no difference. A lot of people might have to go back to work because it's not even a recognised day for some people. So yeah, it'll be a little bit different, but yeah, I don't think there's really. I think the main thing for Boxing Day really in England is probably just the football, Premier League football. That's the kind of thing I think of.
The thing is, quite a funny thing. Obviously, being part of Tekkers, we've been doing a lot of great watch-alongs this year. A lot of, especially watching one from a couple of weeks ago. We've been watching Chelsea versus West Ham, great game. Liverpool versus Tottenham, great game. And so Tanner's been obviously doing his big move. Back to Austin, obviously, and he'll be back. He actually messaged into the Tekkers authority chat because obviously you've got the 3-person council, which is me, Mags, and Tanner, who run the gaff, basically. I say I run it. I turn up. I'm the talent. But we so Tanner's like, what games on the 26th? I'm like, sorry, you're like the 4-6 list. Which games do you want to do? I'm like, Tanner, if I do a game on Boxing Day, I won't live to see the next one. Boxing Day in the UK is the day that you spend with your family over here.
So I need to send a sneaky little DM to Tanner offering my assistance on Boxing Day.
You can do by all means, Graham. They'd be very happy about that. I know that him and Mag are looking to do something at some point. It all depends what time I get home. If they're doing the late game, I might be able to do it. It all depends, of course. Obviously, the volley will be doing the volley still, which will be out obviously next Monday, of course. You're perfectly welcome to join us for that if you want to. Do you know join us for the volley, Graham? Ever?
We'll see. I don't get to see every game, so it's not something.
No, but that's why you come along and you let us talk about it and you chip in.
This show's just become an advertisement for Tekkers, hasn't it? Really?
Well, you were talking about the football, Graham. I wasn't going to bring it up.
I didn't say you had to mention every single thing. I was talking about the games. I wasn't talking about people doing podcasts.
Traditional Boxing Day games are not fun. Well,
I'm gonna tell you about something, and I'm gonna bring it back to Tanner. I've been listening to last few days. I've had a lot of time to listen to podcasts. I've caught up on the Badlands podcast since Tolly came back. Great, I love the new format. I also caught up on all the change in attitude as well, and I didn't realize Tanner was making that move. I was suddenly like, oh, and then I mentioned it, and he's like, yeah, I'm already there. I was like, oh, okay. But I'd listened to all those episodes to kind of catch up as well. And the other podcast I've listened to as well, which people might have noticed, I've started tweeting a few things out about them recently, is I think it's called an Unexpected Wrestling Podcast. I think that's what it's called. It's one of my former students. I saw it on Facebook. I saw her post something wrestling related, and I clicked like, and I was about to comment, oh, I didn't know you liked wrestling. And then the next day I was like, here's the next episode of our podcast. I was like, oh, I didn't realize at all. So I've been caught up with the last 28 episodes of that. So
wow,
it's been her and Dustin, they do a great job. The episodes are typically 30 to 40 minutes long. So they're kind of been good. Like, if I have like a short period of time, I can kind of listen to one episode.
That's 10 minutes.
And I can do something else and I can come back. So I really enjoyed listening to it. It was great to hear a former student who I haven't heard of. I haven't obviously heard her voice physically in probably about 10 years. But to hear her talking about wrestling, She was actually up at the SmackDown draft in Baltimore a few weeks ago. And I also heard through the catch up, they're also going to be at AEW Dynamite in January as well, with that being in DC. So, yeah, that was really interesting to kind of catch up on podcasts. But yeah, the other one I didn't mention and I meant to last week is I don't think I did, at least anyway. I talked about we talked about the different amendments, and I talked about the Third Amendment, and I talked about Orny Adams. When I started researching it, he has his own podcast. I listened to all 42 episodes in about a week and a half, which might not sound that impressive, but his episodes are probably, some of them are like nearly 2 hours long, and he talks about everything under the sun, and I love it. It's definitely one of my favorite podcasts now. So that was another one. Yeah, I've had to skip a few of my regular podcasts because I had lots of different ones on the go trying to do my marathon and catch up. But
so did you catch up with UTT this week then, or?
I did, yeah. Well, perhaps I didn't tag you in that. I was like, oh, this is how I found out you've been cheating on me. Yes, I did listen to it, yes. I was actually, my phone broke. Not broke, the battery. While we were in Punxsutawney, we were walking around, and I was taking pictures of everything, and my phone was at 50%, and then I looked a couple of minutes later, and my phone had switched off, and I was like, I don't remember switching my phone off. It was down to 0%. I was like, oh, that's not good when my battery, because I use that as my GPS when I'm driving around. I had an external charger, so I could, once I got back to the car, I could charge it up. And anyway, and then it didn't start doing it. I was like, okay, this is weird. Anyway, yesterday it did the same thing. It was at 60%, and then like 2 minutes later, it was at 2%. So I had to get my phone charged up, get my new battery in yesterday. The nearest place where I could get it done was about 15 miles away. And then when I got there, I thought it was a quick job. They were like, it's going to be over 90 minutes. I was like, okay, that's fine. I have podcasts to listen to. So I actually did a walk around and then sat in the car for a bit. And I listened to, the UTT podcast yesterday. So I listened to you, Dan, and Rob, obviously. So it was good, though. I had a lot of nice podcasts to listen to.
It was a fun one to do, Graham, for sure. Yeah. Fun one to do. Get drunk at the same time was always a good thing. And was also very good fun to also record what you talked about Willis recently as well.
Yes. You
I've missed
a long time.
Yeah, since March. It's been a long time since we've done one. But we are slowly but surely getting ourselves back into it.
Yep.
Which is great. And, well, I've been doing podcasting the whole time, but James has had a lot on his plate, recovering from COVID, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And actually today, they've just made it so that children from 5 to 11 who are clinically vulnerable can get the jab, which means then he can get his jab.
Good. Yeah.
So happy about that. But aside from all that, Graham, anything that's been on your mind? What's been happening with you then last week or so, apart from visiting the indoors?
It's been, so when I normally say, I was like, man, I've been so busy. I've loved these last 5 days. It's been great. I took a slightly longer route to Ohio than I normally would take, so I could go visit a few places. It was great being on the road with the boys, and we found the new game that we like to play while we're driving in the car and we were doing it to help Jackson. Was actually just making devil's advocates up for each other. We must have done that for about an hour, just coming up with different ones, taking it in turns to come up with ones. And it's funny how that was just really to help Jackson. But I think that might be something we might do on regular trips now when we go and see different wrestling events. So
that's not a bad thing.
As it's not going to get reviewed on MGB, perhaps I can talk about that. I don't know if I want to mention the name of the organization necessarily. Originally, we were supposed to go to Susquehanna Wrestling. It's only 2 hours from us, which is not too far, but it made the next day's drive really long. So we decided, we're like, hey, we can go to that anytime. We'll just go to another month. We've put it off multiple times already. I found another organization that was a little further into northern Pennsylvania. Tickets were only $10. I kind of talked to the owner a little bit on Facebook. Really nice guy. And anyway, we got there, and we got there about 40 minutes before it started. It was packed. There was a lot of people there. I was like, oh, this is good. This is a real local town event. Like it. Nice arena. A little cold, but it was like, it's all good. Anyway,
winter.
Because every time they opened the doors, and anyway, it was cold. Anyway, they had some people come out for the ring announcer. They brought in some people to interview, etc., etc. I was like, oh, this is good. A little bit of entertainment going on. They had a pre-show match 10 minutes before, so I'm like, this is good. We're getting entertainment. They started at 5. Now, I actually asked the owner. I said, how long do you think the show is going to go on for, just so I can kind of plan when we're going to get to the hotel and everything? And he told me, hopefully by 8, but 8:30 at the latest. I'm like, wow, that's a good length show for an indie show for $10. So imagine my surprise when they took the intermission at 5:45. They only had 45 minutes. I was like, oh my God. And within some of those, there was non-matches. There was people coming out, kind of trash talking, but actual wrestling time, it was kind of made me think of Raw. Like when you actually time the actual matches, there's not very much there in it. So we're like, okay, they'll take a quick intermission, because they use that phrase, like, we'll take a quick intermission. So 15 minutes, right? 20 minutes at the most, something like that. 6:30, they still hadn't started. And I was already thinking at 6:15, I was like, it was only $10. Like the hour that we saw, that's fine. $10 for an hour is good. And then finally about 6:25, 6:30, Jackson looked across. He's like, can we go? And I looked at Mason and he immediately said, yeah, can we go? And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. 45 minutes after the intermission started and they still hadn't started the next part. Then the person had just come on about 6:25 and said, we'll be starting in around 5 minutes time. I was like, 45 minutes for an intermission. That's absolutely ridiculous.
That's the same amount of time as the first amount of wrestling.
Yeah, it made no sense at all. So the other matches that were coming up sounded kind of good, but we're like, yeah, we don't need to. So we got to the hotel and then we just watched some American football on the TV and everything worked out fine from it. But we only paid $10, but we can't do a review on watching just 45 minutes worth. But it's only the second time we've ever left a wrestling show. The other time we left a wrestling show was because the show was inappropriate for young kids. And Mason was probably about 10 or 11 at the time. And I deemed it inappropriate and we left before the intermission. I think the intermission was just about to start and we were like, no, we're leaving. That was actually in DC. That organization still actually runs and we've never been back because I haven't wanted. Mason could cope with that level now, but I don't know. It just didn't feel right. So yeah.
If you get that feeling, that's the way you do it. It's thing with movies and TV shows and even video games to a certain extent, Graham.
Uh-huh.
But there is certain things you have to allocate for. I mean, it's like when we were at that show in New Jersey, Capital Wrestling.
Oh,
Graham,
God.
that was listed as being family friendly. There were kids who were younger than Mason in the front row. That was not kid friendly.
Well, the wrestling, the death match that we saw was very graphic, but I was thinking more it was the halftime entertainment where they were doing like a comedic roast kind of thing.
It was a burn battle, yeah.
Yeah, that was, yeah, I would agree. It was fine for us, but yeah, if you'd had kids with you, it wouldn't have been good at all. So yeah, that was probably the thing that was most disappointing on the trip up. I was really, because it's an organization we'll never go to because it's over 4 hours from where we live. So it was like, oh, this is great. We get to see them like one time and can research the company. And yeah, we decided we're not going to review it.
Left the bad taste in your mouth.
Yep. I don't know if I did tell you, but perhaps I did message it to you. The episode for MGB now will definitely be the hiatus episode, which will feature your first appearance on MGB, which I know you've been waiting for a long time. We had all those hiatus episodes, and we haven't had one in ages and ages. So yeah, we'll finally release that one. Yeah.
It was a good episode, if memory serves me correctly as well, Graham. It was a good episode.
I haven't listened to it, really. I listened to the start, I listened to the end, because at that point, I used to say my last name, so I've been trying to edit those out wherever possible. And so I haven't listened to the episode at all. I didn't do that for any of the others either. I was like, I want to leave it in its original form. It was just something to fill the time in. And I was like, I'll listen to it once it comes out on podcast, but yeah. All right, we said this was going to be short, so I propose that we end it around this time. I'm amazed we managed to record for nearly an hour and a half, and we've had no interruptions at all. I thought for sure that just for this location, it's not suitable for podcast.
I had lots more to talk about. Oh, well.
Well, you've got lots of other podcasts, so you can talk about it on Tekkers and all your other... All right, buddy.
I will say, this is something I do have to say. Bearing in mind, okay, and you have to let me do this. There is a 3-parter of Dungeons & Junkies coming out on Christmas Day Boxing the 27th. The reason why I say that is because I have to say, Graham, I'm sorry.
What? Oh, if that's a trick to get me to listen, it's not going to work.
It's not. But in case anyone grasses me up, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're out of here. Happy holidays.
Nice teaser. Very good. Well played, sir.